I don't know what it's like to be a major league hitter, but I have to imagine when the bullpen door opens for the Guardians, the other team's got to think, bringing out Cade Smith, that guy's really good. How in the heck do they have a better reliever than that we're going to face?
Tanner Bobby of the Guardians, and you're listening to Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the show today. And let's give a everyday shout out to Thomas Haynes, everyday, to the show, as well as saying that today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB. Use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB to win $50 instantly when you play 5.
On today's Locked On Guardians, we will talk about the Guardians earning that split against the Rays. We talked about the hard way. We're going to talk about Joey Cantillo's emergence, expectations for the week ahead against the Twins, some clinching math. We'll get into Minor League Monday about the captains, the Ducks going to the playoffs, some injuries in Columbus, and some other stuff in Minor League Monday that's going on in Columbus as well.
But first, I want to thank you for coming and joining us today. I'm Jeff Ellis, one of the first hosts of any of the MLB podcast here on Locked On. Before that, it was a nationally recognized draft and prospect analyst at Scout 24/7. And before that, I was your 20th favorite blogger at every Cleveland sports blog that has or will exist.
Ooh, 20. I'm excited to see what 20 is. It should be 9 because that's the countdown at this point for the Guardians, the magic number. I'm Justin Ladd, your other co-host. I've been covering the Guardians minor league system since 2007, where it was a lot of fun covering guys like Bo Mills and the first day he was in Lake County and all those other guys that made it so easy to talk to when I was younger than them and made for great interviews. I'm at Guardians Baseball Insider and the News Herald, where I've been at recently as well. Wanted to give a quick shout out to all the Locked On Guardians listeners who were at the captain's game last week, the Midwest League semifinal game at home. A lot of people came out. We gave away some cool prizes. Tanner Bybee, sign ball. Bryce hooked us up with a captain's jersey to give away and a Bo Naylor bobblehead. So that was a lot of fun. I know our buddy Siege with me made the trip from Oregon all the way over to Cleveland to watch the captain's game. And then he also took in a couple of Guardians games over the weekend. So that was cool. He was telling me a story about how his tire, he had a flat tire somewhere in Nebraska, I think, or Colorado. It was a rough trip for him, man. I felt bad. But yeah, he came out. He asked for my autograph, which I was like, okay, I don't sign autographs. So like, I don't know how this works. My wife said she's going to start signing my autographs for me because I don't know. I'm terrible at math, and I'm also terrible at cursive writing. But I imagine nobody else is going to ask for my autograph, so it's perfectly fine. May not be a big deal. But thanks everybody who came out. That was a lot of fun, and hopefully we can do it even bigger next year.
Now, before we get too much deeper in the show, I threatened Justin yesterday with a question, and I didn't mention it all. So I was thinking he would forget.
He threatened me.
I threatened him with a question, and one of those things when we go back and we look at trades is we often look at like how players performed in this or that, but not necessarily their impact. And here's my question. We go back, talking the magic number is 9. How much bigger would this magic number be? And would Cleveland still be in first if they hadn't traded for Lane Thomas with what he did over that 2-week stretch?
Yeah, I mean, he was their biggest contributor in Chicago. Trying to think. He started to hit better versus Kansas City, or was that Pittsburgh?
It was Pittsburgh.
He
got up to. It started a little bit
with Kansas City.
It started before that Pittsburgh series. He started to get on base.
Rangers?
The series right before the Pittsburgh one, which was Kansas City as well, wasn't it? Right? Like he started.
Yeah,
to
they
get
faced
on
Kansas
base.
City 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah. That's when the countdown started. Before it ended over this weekend, we got up to 15, and then so would have been game 17, and he had a heck of a game. But I think there's a legitimate case to be made. Like this team may not be in first. There's at least 2 games he won when you look at some of the offensive production. If they're not in first,
one of the White Sox games for sure.
They're in a much tighter position. So it's like, and to lead on to that question, it's like if he guarantees this team a first place or gets that bye in the postseason, I feel like that trade's worth it no matter what happens with the rest of the pieces.
Right? Yeah, I agree because this team needs the first round bye, and I think I don't know. You and I were not as high on Clemmy as others, so that's going to depend. And
yeah, and I mean Tana's been great. He's rocking a ridiculous high BABIP, and we know with Nolan Jones and Will Benson, what happens with that?
Works
but,
out.
You know,
yeah, I think it really it doesn't really depend on what. I mean, both teams can win a trade. I think you can say both teams
100%
can win the trade. So if Cleveland gets the first round bye and Lane has stabilized one outfield spot, especially with Kwan now hurt, which we'll get into, like that's an important role. I mean, and you could even say he's more important right now because Kwan missed the last 3 games with back issues, and first they called it general body fatigue, and then we're all like, yeah, we're those of us in our 30s, almost in our 40s, definitely understand. I mean, I was at the game Saturday, which I saw another Locked On Guardians listener too on Saturday. Shout out. We were standing somewhere and I was holding something for my wife or something, and my back just randomly started hurting, like just standing there holding stuff. So I can relate, Steven. I can definitely relate that very instantly can your body just be sore just for existing. Wait till he turns 30. Hasn't even turned 30 yet, but we'll get into that. But yeah, you could even argue Lane Thomas has been more important with Kwan's recent issues, especially considering Kwan has not been the Kwan we've expected. Because when they traded for Lane Thomas, I don't think anybody really realized Kwan was going through a slump. I feel like we just didn't talk about it as much. Like we maybe didn't notice because the first half was so hot. It almost feels like it took a while to catch on to his issues. And
yeah, because he was still hitting like 330, 340 at the time. So you're like, oh yeah, it's slipping. But we knew there'd be regression due to BABIP, but the level of it, I think, took us all by surprise.
Yeah, it took a while to really recognize. And then I think Lane Thomas coming over and, he had a good first game or two with Cleveland, and then he struggled after that. I think Thomas struggling took some attention away from what Kwan was doing. And then once Lane started to hit, it was like, oh, Kwan, I think some people noticed, but I don't think it was as widely noticed as it probably would have been if Lane didn't start picking it up, or if Lane had continued to struggle. People wouldn't have picked up on it as much. But yeah, you could argue it's crazy because right field's not stable. Left field currently isn't stable in terms of 2024, which stinks. So yeah, you could argue that Lane Thomas has been the third most important player on this offense, maybe even second if you want to talk about Josh Naylor's inconsistencies. It's been Jose and Lane Thomas some days. So yeah, 100%. I think they might not have had enough offense to hold off Kansas City. Yeah. And once it went down to a tie division, they bounced back and spread the lead back out. Without Thomas, they probably don't do that.
I was just thinking, I felt like it doesn't, like you said, both teams can win. And I feel like in many respects, Thomas is already, especially you were texting today about another player who was traded for at the deadline got cut. The number of, feels like half the guys that were traded for at the deadline have been cut. And for Cleveland to actually sit back, they might have had one of the 5 best additions at the deadline in terms of production, weirdly.
I don't think you can overstate how bad this trade deadline was.
Yeah.
Between, and Cobb, who's made 3 starts, I think, and
probably still top 5 starter deadline.
I know it's him and Eflin's been hurt too. It's just
people,
and then honestly, that's a Major League Baseball problem. That's less a Guardians problem. It's
just too many
Major League Baseball problem.
Texas is right now in line for a top 5 pick, and they thought they were competitive, so they didn't make those trades. And there are a lot of teams who decided to stay the course, and it's I think we need to push back the deadline if we're going to have this expanded bit. Then the deadline needs to be mid-August or something like that, or bring back the waiver deadline.
Oh yeah, that too. And the Rangers decided to give an extension to Chris Young, their GM. He got promoted to president of baseball operations. Obviously, they won the World Series a year ago.
Yeah, he still got the World Series victory on him. And their drafting's done pretty well. Right. It's hard to say how much is health with them, but still.
He also spent a ton of money on Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, and Jacob deGrom, and Nathan Eovaldi.
Health.
So, yeah, you can't outspend health issues. But hey, the Guardians' magic number is down to 9 after this split. We said coming into the series that you really just wanted to split with Tampa Bay because, and maybe this is more of a Guardians problem than the Rays are decent. The Rays can pitch. I don't think there's any doubt the Rays can pitch. Pitching has not been their problem this year. It's been offense. even though they haven't been the healthiest team in baseball in terms of pitching. But, we said that the goal, I think, in this series was to at least earn a split, and they did. Now, of course, you wouldn't have said going into it they were going to lose the Gavin Williams and Tanner Bybee starts and win the Joey Cantillo and Ben Lively starts, but that's how it worked. Which, you can never really predict how these things are going to work. And it doesn't matter how you get there. It just matters that you get there, right? But this is a Rays team that doesn't hit well, and the Guardians could not muster enough offense to beat them on Thursday. Was just a lot of goofiness. Friday just, could not muster enough offense to do anything Friday, unfortunately. Saturday, they did a lot of offense late, which is great. And then, Sunday, they did almost nothing offensively, but thank goodness the pitching was fantastic. So, I mean, you'll take it. But again, we said the Rays are a tough team, but not for the reasons maybe we thought, because Cleveland should have had a better offensive showing. Does that seem fair? Like, it's okay to say that they got the split, which was, I guess the bare minimum here, but okay to say also that their offensive showing was not as good as you would have liked against a team like the Rays.
And, I talked about it a little bit on the last show we had, where it's like Cole Sulser. Like, I appreciate him and the hustle, but for him to have given up one base run over 3 innings for a guy who's struggled to stay in the big leagues is not the ideal.
He's a smart guy. He knows how to get outs. He went to Dartmouth, okay? That's all we'll say.
I mean, I'm not debating his intelligence.
No, we're not. We'll get into more of the split. We'll talk about the bullpen a little bit, because the bullpen, I don't know how they keep this up. Like, this bullpen is just otherworldly. I don't know. I don't know that I've ever seen a bullpen in Cleveland this good. Even the Andrew Miller, Brian Shaw, Cody Allen bullpens. I just continue to be amazed by this bullpen. We'll talk about Joey Cantillo, what a great start he had, and what his role looks like going forward. We'll obviously get into the Kwan injury right now. We're also going to get into who do the Guardians really need? Do they have enough offense to do damage in the playoffs? And if they do, who is going to need to step up, and what do they need to do to just do enough offensively? We'll get into Minor League Monday as well. Captains, Clippers, Ducks, all that stuff, all stuff to talk about on Minor League Monday. You guys know I've been enjoying FanDuel's offer for NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. I had it last year. I'm splitting with a friend this year. It is a fantastic thing to have if you're a fantasy football fan. For me, and again, I always say I don't really have an NFL allegiance. My allegiance is to my own fantasy team. I know nobody cares about my fantasy team, but you care about your fantasy team, and you want to watch all of the out-of-market Sunday afternoon games so you can keep up with that. FanDuel's got a great offer for you. We've got a great offer for you from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, through September 22nd. So this week, you got one more week to do this. If you bet $5 on FanDuel, you get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. With a YouTube TV base plan, you can watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account, a current form of payment, and you can cancel this anytime. Again, if you have an NFL team out of market you don't get to see every day that you like, or if you want to follow your fantasy team, maybe you just got certain players you want to watch, or there's a good matchup that you don't have access to through normal TV, this is the way to do it. It's a very easy way to do it. 3-week free trial. By doing this, all you got to bet is $5, and you can cancel this without anything out the door as well. So visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. I know our pal Sully is going to have all of the MLB storylines covered. Guardians, Royals, the Mets, the NL wildcard race is crazy. The Tigers are surging, so the AL wildcard race at the end is coming down to it too. All sorts of things going on around MLB. If you want to catch up on all of the latest headlines and stories, maybe some unique facts and some interesting perspectives you hadn't thought of before, our pal Sully at Locked On MLB is good for all that stuff every day, following Locked On Guardians. So catch our pal Sully at Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I can't believe that Cade Smith has 99 strikeouts. Or 98, I should say. He is one away from getting to 2 away from getting to 100, which I guess was his goal coming into the year. That was his goal coming into the year once he made the team. And by the way, I love going back to this. He didn't even know he was going to be on the team when they were in Oakland. Like, he was literally sitting there playing cards with his family. That's the story's been reported over and over again. Like, he did not know he was going to be on the team. They were going to claim somebody on waivers possibly and send him to AAA. And now he is like the most important. I don't want to say he's the most important member because like Clase obviously is having otherworldly season, but like Clase probably doesn't get to what he's been doing this year without Cade Smith, because Cade Smith is coming out of the bullpen in the sixth inning, the fifth inning, the sixth inning, seventh inning, and it's amazing you can bring him out in those innings, and the other team has to think, geez, there's another guy we're going to face. Like Cade Smith is one strikeout behind the American League leader in strikeouts at 98. Brian Abreu's got 99 for the Astros. And Emmanuel Clase leads the league in saves, and he leads the league in pitches where you're like, how the heck do I hit that? It's just amazing how this bullpen looks like it's getting better. Like Tim Herrin threw the ball great this weekend. Hunter Gaddis is still looking great. Clase continues to be efficient. Lucky they didn't need to use him on Saturday, but these guys, like, I don't know if you could ever expect a bullpen to be this good. I mean, next year, I don't want to overlook what's happening this year and think about next year at this point, because bullpens are volatile and bullpen hangover is certainly a thing. But right now, where these guys are at, like, I hope everybody's watching this and realizes this is not normal, that you can bring in 4 guys like that. And, they just added Andrew Walters to the bullpen, who I guarantee is on the same level as Cade Smith and Tim Herrin and Hunter Gaddis. Like, you've got a 5-headed monster in that bullpen. And I love that Cleveland, by the way, also decided, how for how many weeks on the show did we make a big deal about Andrew Walters not pitching back-to-back games in Columbus? And we're like, oh, well, when he does that, we'll know that maybe that's a sign, right? And he didn't do that. And then he comes up his first 2 days in the big leagues and throws back-to-back days. And I guess they were just saving some bullets, but I don't know, man. If I'm their team, you don't get to the big leagues as a hitter or any Major League Baseball player by doubting yourself. But if I'm the other team and we're losing, and I see any of those guys walk out the bullpen door and it's like the 6th inning, I'm just, thinking, how in the heck do they have somebody who's going to come out of the bullpen and is going to be better than this? But it's true. Like, every guy that comes out next is somehow better than the last, or just as good as the last. And that's not how this usually works.
No, it's unbelievable. You just don't. I mean, it's the best bullpen of my life. Like, at what point, is it a thing where you're just like, okay, this isn't going to happen next year. It's not repeatable, but let's enjoy it while it's here. Because, the numbers Herrin is the 4th best guy in this pen put up most years will count as your number 1 reliever. It's a lot of fun. It's an unbelievable situation. I was kind of curious. I think Josh Hader's 143 is the strikeout record. He did that in 81 innings in 2018, at least modern day relief strikeout record, to give a baseline for it. But
for one inning guys,
for at least modern era. But yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, all of it's ridiculous in the best possible way. If you're, a fan of this team, it speaks to just the value of the bullpen, right? Like, a big part of this turnaround, honestly, like, okay, how many wins did they have last year? I don't have that top of my head, but it's like, just go and you pull the 10 extra blown saves. Clase's blown 2 saves this year, and he blew 12 last year. You pull those 10 and
76 wins last year.
Yeah. So you pull those 10, that's an 86 win team. Right now, this team's at 84 wins. Like, it's the same putrid offense. Like, I know people get mad at the negativity, but the offense is still poor. And it's a starting pitching that's had a lot of shaky parts. Like, I would argue the starting pitching last year might have been more reliable than this year, just because Logan Allen was useful, and this year he was really bad. So
Gavin Williams was great last year.
Yeah, and Gavin Williams was great. So it's just like the bullpen was so much better this year, to such a degree that, like, yeah, there was small improvements on the offense, because a year ago they were historically bad, and now they're just terrible.
Mediocre.
Instead of, I mean, they aspire to mediocre. Let's be honest. This offense is bottom 5. Mediocre is aspirational at this point, but it's enough, and the pitching is enough, and the bullpen is so good. It has just completely raised the floor and ceiling of this team.
Yeah, somehow Miami has the second bullpen by Fangraphs WAR, which is kind of mind blowing to me.
Is that just the amount of innings they've had to eat? Like,
Yeah, they've actually got more innings than Cleveland's bullpen now, which is hard to believe, right? But Cleveland is still better than them. I mean, they're if you eliminate Miami, they're almost 2 full wins better than any other team in baseball in terms of FanGraphs WAR, which is not really a great way to evaluate these things, but it just kind of shows you the discrepancy of how good Cleveland is compared to everybody else. And there was a stretch where we were concerned that, Cleveland's bullpen was regressing because of overuse, and we're like, okay, well, lately it's been the Braves bullpen is better. This bullpen's better. Cleveland's back to having the lowest FIP, the lowest ERA. I know they have the lowest inherited runners scored, which sometimes can be a little bit fluky and a little bit lucky, but I don't think it's lucky when your relievers are just this darn good. Like Tim Herrin comes in there throwing 98, 97 and has got a ridiculous slider and from the left side. And Emmanuel Clase throws 102-mile-an-hour cutters. And like Cade Smith throwing 97 down the middle of the plate and guys still can't touch it because it looks like it's 101 because of his extension. And somehow this year his control is better than it ever was in the minors. And Hunter Gaddis' changeup and slider mix. It's just
the Rays broadcast was talking about how Matt Underwood had told them, I don't maybe they've talked about it on this because I always listen to the outside broadcast, that with Cade Smith, they actually reduced his extension to add more velocity.
I did hear that. They were actually talking about that on the home broadcast as well on Sunday, saying he came in, which is wild because Cade Smith, I think, still is in like the 90th or 100th percentile or whatever it is in extension. Like he still gets some of the best extension really in baseball high. Any pitcher. So imagine that he had even more than that and he reduced some just so he could throw harder. And it's like, well, you're basically going to get the same velocity whether you do it this way or that way. But maybe that helped with control, or it's going to be the same effective velocity, I should say. So maybe at 95, it looks still 97 because of the extension, but now it's 97 and maybe it looks more like 101 because of the extension he does have. And I mean, for me, it's just, he's got better control. He never showed this kind of control in the minors. And now it's just
not close. Yeah.
It's the same thing with Cantillo. I think it's a shift from trying to throw strikes versus trying to make hitters hit it. I think that's the biggest thing in baseball. Like I think Greg Maddux said this, and not every pitcher can do this because not everybody's Greg Maddux, but it's like you go from trying to strike guys out to trying to make them hit it. It's like just trust your stuff, throw it in the strike zone, and if they hit it, they hit it. And if not, and the thing about Cade Smith is his stuff is nasty enough and hard enough where guys can't hit it. Send them to Class A. It's like his control is impeccable, but it's like you just got to throw it in the strike zone, and guys aren't going to hit it because the stuff is that good. Which we're also going to talk about when it comes to Joey Cantillo and what his role looks like going forward. He's going to make another start because obviously Alex Cobb is still on the IL. But are we trending towards a more permanent role for Joey Cantillo? We're going to talk about that. Obviously the Kwan issue, some offensive stuff, and Minor League Monday, all on the rest of today's Locked On Guardians.
But first, let's talk about our friends over at Prize Picks. I am pulling up the Chicago Bears game. Why am I pulling up the stats on the Bears game? Because if Caleb Williams threw over 1 yard, you got to win. Guess what? He's not having a great game yet again, but he's throwing 127 yards. That means that's a free victory for the entire month of September. They are giving you Caleb Williams. If he gets 1 yard, you win. And you only have to pick 2 to 6 stat categories. So that means you just need one other one to get a win. And you don't have to be perfect. They have invented flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So you want to head over to Prize Picks specifically in the month of September for 2 big reasons. First one, again, they're giving you one for free with Caleb Williams. You just pick more. You're not even allowed to pick less than 1 yard. And the other big part here is that they're giving away free money. Who doesn't like free money? Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play 5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play 5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game.
Twins coming to town against the Guardians this week. 4-game series. Should be interesting. Starting on Monday today, 6:40. Catch all the action on your SiriusXM app. Just search Guardians to find all that. Joey Cantillo will be making one of those starts this series, Jeff. It'll be the finale, actually, against Simeon Woods Richardson on Thursday. That should be a fun one. We've talked about how Joey Cantillo had to go through the ringer. He came up against Philadelphia, and he pitched against Baltimore, and then the Twins, which he actually pitched okay against the Twins last time out. Then he faced the Royals and the Yankees. We know he took the perfect game into the 7th inning against the White Sox and the White Sox, and we know that the Rays are are not the greatest offensive team in the history of baseball either. That being said, the last 12 innings for Joey Cantillo, actually, if you want to go back, you want to look at the last 13 2/3 innings, he's got, looks like 17 strikeouts and 1 walk, 5 hits allowed, and 1 run. That's a huge turnaround because he came out of the bullpen against the Royals in a game in July before being recalled in August to help out this rotation with Alex Cobb being down. I think we're ready for Joey Cantillo to have a bigger role. I think there's been some good changes. I think what you saw on Saturday against the Rays is they have reduced his pitch mix a little bit. Like he was all fastball changeup against the Rays. It was like 51% fastballs, 35% changeups, and he mixed in a couple of sliders and curveballs. And the slider was a really good pitch for him, actually. The fastball gets hit harder, but he's throwing the fastball for strikes. He's getting chases. Obviously, the changeup is his best pitch. But Cleveland's really, I don't know if it's just the individual game plan or if it's been something they worked on, but it was the same thing against the White Sox. You know, he threw 99 pitches, 52 were fastballs, 30 were changeups. He threw 10 curveballs. Like he has reduced the mix from adding. He's basically taking out the curveball and the slider to almost show me pitches. Those are good pitches for him. You hope Alex Cobb comes back and he can give you some postseason starts because he just, cannot keep his fingers healthy apparently, which is wild. And he's always, he's had that throughout his career. Yeah, some more than others, sure. I think it'd be really interesting to have Joey Cantillo on this postseason roster. I think you want to have it. Yeah, I'm not going to go there.
I got a thumb that doesn't bend from having broken it. So
I think you want to have him on the roster to begin with because of protection. Like, what if you have Alex Cobb on the roster and he gets hurt? You're going to want to have Cantillo, right? If he has another issue. I know you'll have Lively and then Gavin, but think about the things you can do. You got Tanner starting game 1, right, in a division series, hopefully. And you got Matthew Boyd. And then from there, you kind of play, what's the best matchup? Is it Cantillo again? Is it a team that struggles with lefties? Do you try to get just one time through the order with Gavin and then one time through the order with Cantillo? You got Lively in there maybe somewhere if he can help out. Like, I think Cantillo, and you got Cobb, obviously you're hoping he can start a game. I think Cantillo gives you another option out there. I think if you reduce him to a 2-pitch guy, fastball and changeup, that's going to help his control, it looks like. And a changeup can turn the lineup over against righties, so he can get righties out. You might see a fastball bump if you only ask him to get 9 hitters out or 6 hitters out. He can still throw the curveball and the slider if he needs to, but you don't have to rely on it as bad. The slider's still a good pitch. I think Cleveland should consider a role for Joey Cantillo on the postseason roster. I think obviously he's going to make one more start, and I trust him at this point. But he's showing signs of being the guy we thought he could be as a prospect. You tweeted it Saturday night.
Yeah, no, and you and I have always been high on him, and it's been really weird at points this year when people are like his stuff isn't good enough. It's like the question has never been the stuff. The stuff has always been
get
there.
Out to major league level.
It's health and it's command. Like that has been the question. Is like, can he command his stuff enough? And it's only 30 innings. It's the smallest of sample sizes, but it is interesting to look at Savant and be like, he's 99th percentile in extension. His ground ball rate, his whiff percentage, his K percentage, and his barrel percentage are all low. Now, he doesn't have the biggest velocity on his fastball, which I think that's why some people think he has poor stuff, is there's too often people who equate velocity and stuff when no. Yeah, velocity helps, don't get me wrong, but
the extension helps.
Extension helps with that, and also like movement. I talked about on the last show, like Richard Lovelady getting the save. It's like I was really high on that guy, and why did he fail? Because he was velocity without movement. Now Tampa's working with him, but I think with Cantillo, it's like we always knew that changeup was going to be a good pitch. It's interesting that like how much slower it is than league average, and how much I believe vertical movement is on that. Like it just throws guys off, and it's a real weapon. So when you have everything there, like if you can get everyone healthy, I almost think it behooves you to let Cantillo keep pitching as long as you still have the big lead, right? Like maybe give guys an extra day off if possible, spread some things around. There's not a ton of time left. If you can go to a 6-man rotation or do things to help you set up, especially if you get to that Houston series. Houston had a poor weekend, I want to say. So that lead has gotten a little bit bigger. Like if you don't need it, it gives you more chances to see what Cantillo can do. And if it helps you conserve some of your pitching, I think there's value in that. And if he's a 2-pitch guy, it's the same thing we talked about with Gavin Williams, right? Like Eric Sabrowski has been great. He's been better than I expected of him. But this team doesn't have a secondary lefty. And, if you want Cantillo to be your secondary lefty or even a depth multi-inning reliever with that 2-pitch combo, I think he could be really effective.
Yeah, I mean, again, you can get if you choose not to start Gavin Williams, like let's say in a 5-game series, if you go, if everyone's healthy and you go Bybee, Boyd, and Cobb, or some combination of that, right? You're not guaranteeing Lively, Cantillo, or Williams to start. You can easily try to get 6 outs from Gavin Williams because I think he can absolutely buzz through a lineup one time. Cantillo, the same thing, and all of a sudden you're talking about 6 to 12 outs right there, right? And in the postseason with this bullpen, if you can get 4 innings from Tanner Bybee or 4 innings from Alex Cobb of shutout ball, and you can get 12 outs from Gavin Williams and Cantillo combined, all of a sudden you turn it over to Cade Smith, or you turn it over to Hunter Gaddis or Tim Herrin or Emmanuel Clase. Like, you shorten the game real fast, and it goes to how much offense do you really need? And I think we've said it over multiple times throughout the year. Like, this team has a chance in the postseason solely because of its bullpen. And I think we've talked also about how not having Steven Kwan is obviously a big blow to this offense in terms of struggling and health. And I wonder how long he's been dealing with this issue. And that's why it would make sense if he's dealing with the back issue that he's popping the ball up more too, right? Because you're getting into bad habits with your swing if your back is hurting you. And that's going to hurt your rotation, and you're going to fall back, and your posture is going to be bad, and you're going to pop the ball up. So maybe
you heard it here first. Jose Ramirez has a bad back. I'm kidding.
Jeez, well, who knows with Jose? I mean, he plays every day.
And Josh Naylor, and every hitter in the lineup.
Yeah, we know he's had. Yeah. So it would explain some things certainly if he's been dealing with this for a while, and it's the worst thing to play through an injury because you do get into bad habits and you start doing things you shouldn't be doing that affect you from getting off your best swing or doing the things that made you successful. So that would make sense. So my question here is, I think we're hoping Kwan is going to avoid an IL stint, which is part of why Martinez came up, right? Because it was a better alternative than continue to lead off Daniel Sheeman, which this is a whole other conversation we probably should have had today too, is why is it okay? We'll get into minor league Monday on Tuesday, I guess. Why is it? I don't see this. Maybe if you're watching other games, maybe I need to go back and look at lineups. But why is it when a player misses time in Cleveland, like gets a day off, right? The guy replacing him in his position has to hit the same spot in the order. Like when Jason Kipnis was here, for example, and he hit second, Mike Freeman would come and replace him. Mike Freeman had to hit second apparently, and Daniel Sheeman played left in place of Steven Kwan twice or whatever it was, and Daniel Sheeman had to hit leadoff and there's no perfect option, right? Because we talked about, if you move Kwan out of the leadoff spot, there's no good option. Why not? I don't know. I know the answer is to try to keep everybody else in their same spot and not disrupt things. And that's the answer they've been giving since Terry Francona was here, and this is now apparently continuing with the new. So you wonder where this is it backed by data? Is there some sort of science or reasoning behind it about not disrupting other guys in the order? I just would like to hear. I know the question's been asked because I know people are going to say, well, I wish the media would ask the question why. I guarantee you it's been asked. You just didn't see it on TV for 2 minutes. And I guarantee the answer is always unproductive. Well, we just didn't want to disrupt the rest of the hitters. But is that enough of a reason to not just get better? Like, and this is I don't want to sit here and, make this the Rip Daniel Sheeman show, but do you want Daniel Sheeman getting 4 at-bats? Would you rather have Andres Gimenez getting 4 at-bats, Jose Ramirez getting 4 at-bats, Lane Thomas getting 4 at-bats? Because no matter what you want to say about Daniel Sheeman, he is certainly not a better player than any of those guys. I don't think you want to get those guys less at-bats than him in a game when you're a team that's already struggling on offense. So I don't understand why this always happens, and I don't know if it happens other places. I want to see if it does.
I think a big part of this is Jose. If we were being 100% honest, I think because he is so important to the lineup, and he wants to hit third and only wants to hit third. Like that kind of came up was it Saturday's game or when I was listening to like Andre kind of said very offhanded, like Jose doesn't like hitting 2. He doesn't want to hit 2. It's like, I think Jose in his mind is the 3 hitter. He can only hit 3. And if someone is out and you can't move where Jose is, you're kind of locked in multiple places. Now I agree with you. I'd rather just move up Jimenez or Thomas. But then I think with Thomas in particular, there's some hesitancy because it's where he found success and you don't want to mess with it. But I think a lot of it comes down to when you have your best hitter as a guy who is, listen, Jose has earned the right to be inflexible. Don't take this as like a negative on him. But when Jose is saying, I hit 3, it kind of kills
you make
your ability
best
to
player
move.
happy.
Yeah. And if it's going to make him comfortable there, then all the more so. I don't want anyone to sit there and be like, think I'm dragging him for that at all. No, if he is comfortable there and that's what he wants to do, he has earned that spot. But I think it does make it harder to make the adjustments you're talking about.
It does. I guess you can just move up Jimenez or Lane Thomas, or whoever else. It's just, I don't know. I think not. I mean, again, this is not to sit here and say anything about Schneemann. It's just,
it's not ideal.
Put your best lineup out there.
No, it's
not ideal, but it's just why is this always the case in Cleveland? Why was it always the case when it was Terry Francona here? Why is this the case? I know the answer, like you said, is going to be Jose likes to hit 3rd, and that's fine. You don't want to disrupt Jose because he is the most important player on your offense, on your team. That's fine. But there's other guys you can move around that, I don't want to sit there and say you want to disrupt them too. It's just, I don't know. Have they done studies on this? Is there good reasoning other than just, we don't want to disrupt things? I don't know. It's just a very weird thing. Whatever. So the question I was trying to wrap up with earlier though, was this: with this bullpen and all the pitching stuff we talked about today, how many guys in this offense, you need Jose? Like, there's no question you get into the playoffs, right? You need Jose to be on the best version of Jose Ramirez you're going to get. How many guys do you need at their best at the same time with this bullpen? Because I'm going to say the bullpen gives me enough confidence to say, if you have Jose, you're going to need the best version of Kwan. You're not going to get, I don't think you're going to get first half Kwan. You're just not. That's close to a 400 hitter. Let's just be realistic here.
It just doesn't exist in baseball anymore.
No, but if you can get Kwan getting on base at a 340 clip, or the equivalent of that in the playoffs, whatever, and you get enough from Josh Naylor and you get enough from Lane Thomas, that's 4 guys, right? Is it enough to have those 4 guys doing what they need to be doing, and then somebody the 5th hitter, right? Jimenez, Noel, Roque or Bo Naylor. Is it enough for one of those guys to step up if you're getting what you need out of those 4 in the postseason with this bullpen? Is that enough?
With this bullpen,
I'm not saying to win the World Series. I'm not saying the world. I'm just saying to actually have a fighting chance to win a series.
No, I mean, I think they do. I think this bullpen gives them a chance if you have like 2 guys stepping up. Offensively, there's just enough there. The bullpen is so good, it's going to give you an opportunity.
I think you need at least 3 or 4 of those guys, because I don't think, you're going to be facing some really good offenses. I don't think you want to necessarily expect your bullpen to go up there and throw up all zeros all postseason long. They might. I mean, Cody Allen, for all the accolades Andrew Miller got that postseason, he was great and he deserved it. Cody Allen didn't allow a run in 2016. So it's very possible that these guys come in and Cade Smith just, buzzsaws their team and Emmanuel Clase does. We didn't have time for Minor League Monday today. Apologize, but the Captains lost game 1 of their Midwest League Championship Series. We'll talk more about that on Tuesday, or on Monday's show, or Tuesday's show, I should say. I will be in Lake County on Tuesday, so if you're there, come see me or say hi, whatever. I'll be around. We'll talk about Austin Peterson. We'll talk about George Valera tomorrow. We'll talk about Mackenzie and Allen, who kind of moved into a piggyback role in Akron on different days, which is interesting. Akron, I should say Columbus, not Akron. Akron's playoff bound this week, and George Valera escaped a serious injury, which is good, but I still don't think we're going to see him this year, so we'll get into all that tomorrow.
Yeah, and I want to thank you all for joining us. I want to thank all of our everydayers. Remember to rate and review, do your part daily, like, comment, favorite, hit the little bell so you get notified. And again, thank you to every single one of you who joined us today. We appreciate all of you being part of the Locked On Guardians team, and go Guardians.